Hey guys, it's Passport Bro Visuals back at it with another one. Just wanted to make a quick video on some things. I have to say I'm in disagreement with Oshay Duke Jackson. YouTube, I know he's been on YouTube a long time. He does his thing. I have to say I think he's wrong on a lot of these issues with Pan-Africanism and pro-blackness. He's a businessman, but he's not a businessman. You know what I'm saying? I have to say that when it comes to the Pan-African thing, there's a lot of flaws, and there's a reason why a lot of black people left the space in the 1990s. I know it had a resurgence with the internet, but there's a reason black people left in the 1990s. You know what I'm saying? And there's a reason why a lot of, black, comedy films and all that sort of stuff made jokes about the Pan-African, pro-black, whatever, since as early as the 1970s. So, I truly, like I said before in my last video, I do think he has an axe to grind and trying to prove among blacks, ones who left in the 1990s. I think he does feel that he may have an axe to grind with those blacks who may left in the 1990s. Like I said, replaced for jobs and stuff like that, in spite of, the crime bill, which is made by Biden and passed by Clinton. But, nevertheless, I think that's kind of what it is. But I have to say that you have neo-colonialism, for one. That's an issue. It's really just like soft colonialism. The same countries that are independent still have relationships, which makes sense. Have relationships with the colonial countries that colonize them, which technically makes sense. And I think, there's a lot of, he's not really helping because of what he can do, what he's limited in what he can do. He's not a politician. He doesn't know political analysis. He doesn't understand how governments work, and things like that. And like, frankly, I don't think he speaks Swahili at all. I don't think he speaks any African language, which, again, that's an accident I have with people going to these countries and living in these countries, and you don't speak. You don't try to learn the language. It's just a weird thing. If you're going to be pro-black and all that, Pan-African, you should know the language. You know what I'm saying? Austin Holloman, Kid Greatness, those two guys, they don't know the language. They've been in Kenya. They left Kenya. They don't know the language. They don't know South African languages, anything like that, or wherever. So that's my biggest thing. If you're really going to be about that, learn the language. And that's another thing, too. Learning these languages does push you further. That gets you further ahead in the door than anything. Like, for example, richest man in Africa, he's of Hausa descent. I'm Fulani descent. That would be one of my cousins. He's on the Hausa side. He's the richest man in Africa, worth $26.2 billion. And if you're trying to do business with him and talk to him, if you know the language of Hausa, that gets you in the door. That gets you respect in the door, because Hausa is a different language, and it is, very popular. You know what I'm saying? So, but the point is, it's like, hey, that gets you in the door, and that gets people listening. Especially if you got something to say, you got good plans or whatever, good ideas and things like that. But that just, the fact of itself gets you in the door. Even if it's not with him, it gets you with someone else in the door that knows business, and you're a mover of things, a shaker of things, and that's where I think Oshay falls apart right there, because he's not trying to learn his language. No one's trying to hear the excuse of businessman. No, you're just being a front. You're talking some BS, and you're not trying to really progress forward. So that's some of the issues with Pan-Africanism. Flaws are everywhere. People have their different flaws, corruption, and quite frankly, like I said before, skin color is not a race. You're not going to get people to unify off of skin color. Skin color is not a race. those mates, really pro-blacks and Pan-Africans actually spewing colonial rhetoric, thinking it's that way, thinking that's what it is, when it's not. Although the experience outside of Africa says that, but that doesn't make it correct. Just because the white man made it up, these people are different racial ethnic groups. You know what I'm saying, and that's why you have a lot of problems and tensions and things like that. But at the same time, it is what it is. But like I said, you're supposed to, you're not good at business as far as like stepping up to, getting with the powers that be. Like I said, you don't speak the different languages. You know what I'm saying? You don't really know real political analysis of what's going on. And if you're so pro-black, you wouldn't really have a celebrity junk channel, anything, a celebrity junk channel at all. You got your King Jonda channel, which is good, you know what I'm saying? But do you really speak anything related to Kenya? To Uganda? That's just my question. And two, you praise Ibrahim Traore, but you're not talking about the flaws of what he's doing. You're not talking about the genocide of the Fulani people in that country. You're not even talking about the stability. You just want a black person to lead and have the same ideological thinking, because that's what's going on with inside Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore, president of Mali, and I think Niger as well, the other country that's involved. There's a lot more stability, a lot more understability, and a lot more killings under those three guys' rule. So out there in Mali with the military junta, if you're really pro-black, you would be talking about these things, what's really going on. Like I said, it's just powerful when you learn these languages. Like I said myself, I'm trying to learn for a full day. I'm trying to learn, right now I'm trying to learn Arabic. I'm trying to learn them all at the same time, I also want to learn Hausa. I just ordered some books on the Fulani and the Arabic script so I can learn how to write. I use the phone apps for Arabic, things like that. So, but yeah, like I say, you're not really even discussing what's going on in these other countries. You say it's, the powers that be in those countries that probably wouldn't want you to speak on it, but hey, you don't even speak on it. Think about it. You're in a whole other country speaking on black issues in a whole other country, but you can't speak on the country that you're in's issues, which doesn't make any sense. You can speak on some things, but not push it in a political sense, where you can get in trouble. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, we don't want that form. I definitely don't want that form either. So, but that's just definitely something to talk about and to think about. It's just very short-sighted. And also, I think there's a lack of respect of people's differences and what they look for and what they want, out of Pan-Africanism or whatever their goals are. And two, it's just Pan-Africanism and pro-black perspective is just, really stuck in the past about whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got your integration, whoop-de-doo, you're still going to have your racism and whatever towards you, despite it shouldn't happen. And you should still fight, but don't waste your time trying to fight it so much to the point where you're not really progressing anyway, especially when your progress should be more easier, or is more easier in a sense, compared to pre-integration. And I will say a lot of people, especially brothers, I feel pain for them, because there's a lot of brothers that play into the system. There's a lot of brothers that play into the system. You know what I'm saying? They catch a record, and like I said, they get free and they can't even get a job. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? They can't even get a job and all that. And like I said, they can't even get a job, and they dealing with the drugs and dealing with things like that. And then they just had to lose faith in the system and even possibly themselves. So I just think that you have to look at things more objectively, and you have to be sympathetic to what their problems are, because your problems aren't necessarily their problems. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's very short-sighted as far as Pan-Africanism, and I think that's why a lot of black people are kind of pulling away from it. I think there has to be something new. It has to be something new that can benefit both African Americans and Africans. Well, the African diaspora and Africans, you know. And reparations is not really what's going to happen, because one is a Pandora's box. And that's like I said, Thomas Sowell said, hey, you know, they're not going to transfer their entire wealth of their nations to you. You know, that doesn't make any sense. You know, although while still exploiting the continent of Africa. But at the same time, you know, Oshay doesn't even talk about the entire west coast of Africa as far as ports and, you know, things like that. Because why? Because he doesn't know that stuff. And two, he's not even talking about, like, for example, you don't have a lot of ports because with when it's separated from Pangea, there was no glaciers, because obviously it's closer towards the equator. You know, a lot of the coast of Africa is smooth. You know, West African coast, a lot of it is smooth. Then you got the strong winds coming from the inland of the other continent, pushing out towards the water, which helps, you know, which makes it hard for maritime trade, you know, for ships. And like I said, you have no real waterway ports. You know, the ones you do have, you know, that's very few. You know, that's very few. And these right here, you know, I mean, you're not thinking about any solutions. You know, so I really don't think I think he wants to do his little part, but I think he just wants to carve his little way out and just, you know, talk and complain, you know, about these things and not really making any real substance, you know. And you know, Kenyatta, you know, dating, you know, whatever that is, dating show, you know, I mean, that helps, I guess, but it's not really, because it's just not the most important thing, you know. You know, and I just don't think that he's qualified to really speak on a lot of these things, and I don't think he's qualified to really make any real strong changes. You know, personally, that's just my opinion about him. And, you know, like I said, I'm not trying to knock him or whatever. He does his thing. But that's just my personal opinion about what he's trying to do or what he thinks he's trying to achieve and stuff like that. Like I said, I do know about the situation where he lost it. He got 20,000 stolen from him. Like I said, I'm going to try to keep up a little bit more with his Kenyatta channel so I can try to catch the lives on it, so I can try to figure out a way to record some of it so I can talk about it. I do want to try to send that to a couple different guys, but I'm going to try to catch it. But it's just kind of hard because, like I said, I don't have the notifications up for one. When he does a live and he deletes his lives literally right after he does the live, so you really have to record it in real time. And then when I do catch it, you know, it's either super late where I'm at, you know what I'm saying, or where he's at, you know what I'm saying. And then on top of that, when I do find it, he's probably on the tail end of the live, so I don't really know where he's at. But once somebody really catches it and records it, and he hears about it, once it gets out there, yeah, he's probably not going to do no lives no more. But like I said, he's lasted probably this long because he hasn't done these lives, which is really just a good business decision on his part. But like I said, those lives help because they, you know, people can critique and see the flaws in your thinking versus a pre-recorded video. You know what I'm saying? It's harder to assess that versus live because it's really your thinking per se in real time, what you're really thinking, you know, and all that sort of stuff. So I will be doing that. Like I said, I will do that. Just have you guys, I'll keep you guys posted on that until then. I know J Rello just finished a live tonight. He's postponing his Sensua trip. It sounds like he needs more money. Looked like he was at $12.95, so it looks like he needs another $200. I will do another live on that tomorrow. Hopefully he did save this live. I know the previous one he did. I'm gonna see if he did the same for this one. So I'm gonna try to watch some of that and see what happened. But I'll try to do a video of that tomorrow. I'll post that. But like I said, I'll keep you posted on my thoughts with about Oshay Drew Jackson, and see about the King John lives whenever he does them. So I'll try to do it that way. But yeah, that's it for right now, and I'll see you guys next time.